So I've begun a bunch of projects exploring the rights, safety, and welfare of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD for short. So my son was diagnosed with autism when he was 3. Later on, he went on to develop severe mental illness, and providing him with the services and supports he needed to live safely in the community was a very difficult but also informative journey for me as a parent. And what I came to understand as a researcher is that there's really very little data-driven research in this area. It's largely ignored, particularly by economists, which is my background, and also for the most part by legal scholars. So I felt that given my background in law and economics, this would be an area that could benefit quite a bit from analyzing things through that kind of empirical legal studies approach. So that is what inspired me to begin this line of research. 50 years ago, people with IDD were institutionalized for their entire lives, much of the time, in large state institutions. In the past 50 years, that has dramatically changed. Most of those state institutions have closed, and most people with IDD now live in the community. The majority of them live at home with their families, but a significant fraction live in other environments. They live in group homes, they live in supported living, and a whole variety of community-based settings. So I'm interested both in changes unfolding at the federal level, at the national level, but also particularly here in California, because we have a really unique system in California. We have a state law called the Lanterman Act. It's named after its sponsor about 50 years ago, which provides individuals with IDD with the right to live in the community in proximity to their families and with the services and supports they need to live lives that approximate the set of opportunities and choices that other people have. And this law was really ahead of its time. And what makes it unique in the US is that it provides an entitlement to these things for people with IDD, not just a right to take a number and wait in line until the next slot becomes available, but again, as a civil right. And so it's the only state that has that strong of a right. And the purpose of the Policy Lab was to figure out how this system is actually working in California on the ground. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What can be done better? I've just launched a new initiative called the Stanford Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Law and Policy Project. The goal of SIDDLAPP is to engage in research and policy analysis in a wide range of issues that affect the rights and welfare of people with IDD. In criminal justice, on the federal level, state level, educationally, and in so doing to try to inform public debate and policy around these issues. Again, here in California, because we have a particularly interesting system here, as well as issues that involve federal policy. SIDDLAPP is the culmination of several streams of work that I've done in recent years. One is scholarship on intermediate care facilities, which is an empirical project, which is scholarly and academic. And the other is the Policy Lab that I taught a couple years ago, in which several students and I looked in detail about California's system and issued 3 reports analyzing the functioning of that system and ways in which it could be improved. So about 11% of people with IDD that require significant support who do not live at home with their families live in what are called intermediate care facilities for people with intellectual disabilities. It's a long term, but I call them ICFs for short, for intermediate care facilities. So it serves a sizable proportion of people who require long-term care. And I launched a project about 2 years ago comparing outcomes in ICFs by ownership type. And the reason I did this is there's a growing literature that in for-profit nursing homes that serve the elderly, there's a lot of abuses, a lot of concerns, a lot of cost cutting that compromises the quality of care provided to the elderly. So the natural question is, given what we're seeing with the nursing homes, should we be concerned about the fact that a sizable proportion of ICFs are for-profit? So I compared ICFs by ownership type. I compared government-owned ICFs and ones that are nonprofit to ones that are for-profit. And we looked at various metrics of care quality. And what was really concerning to us is that the most objective metric of care quality, which is regulatory citations by state officials who come around and inspect a lot of things like, is abuse happening, is neglect happening, really important stuff, not so much technicalities. What we found is that the frequency of citations is consistently higher in for-profit intermediate care facilities. And this is really concerning to us, in part because Medicaid, which funds these facilities, is really not collecting detailed data on outcomes. So although this is a red flag, without better data, we can't really probe it in more detail to figure out exactly why it's happening, how big of a problem is it, how severe are the problems. So that's one piece of research that really legitimates, I think, the concern about inadequate enforcement and oversight and accountability in the community as people leave state institutions to live in community-based settings.